Welcome everyone to a new episode of Mortal Medicine. My name is Keran Bullock, and today I will be taking you through the Minnesota Coronary Experiment. Coronary heart disease is the leading cause of death in America, with over 600,000 people dying every year of this disease, which is very much preventable. For the country where I studied, the Netherlands, it's almost the same. It's the number 2 cause of death. Now, what we know about how to treat heart disease is mostly related to decreasing your blood pressure and eating healthy and moving around a lot so that you can keep your heart happy and healthy. And by keeping our heart happy and healthy, we also need to feed it with good things. Now, we've been told that these things that we need for our heart to be good and to lower the bad things in our body is plant oils. Why? Because plant oils reduce cholesterol. This has been researched multiple times, and the correlation is very strong. And there's very clear evidence that plant oils do decrease cholesterol. Now, the question you should ask, is that a good thing? Because cholesterol is produced in your liver, and your body doesn't do anything without a good reason. I mean, just look at the way your brain functions or your liver functions. Everything has its special niche to create the thing you need to keep on living. Now, cholesterol is actually used for repairing cells, especially your brain cells. They take up a lot of cholesterol. And also, just every cell in your body has cholesterol in its membrane. For people who do not know, cells are made up with membranes, little walls around the cell. And these walls are made up of lipoproteins, of chains of fats, and in between these fats there's some cholesterol floating around. Now that's one reason why you would want it, because your cells, they need to be sturdy, they need to be healthy. Now with people who get heart disease, what happens is they get atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is a very, very nasty process where cholesterol, which is inflamed, gets underneath your blood vessels. Now, normally your blood vessels have 3 layers with the tunica intima, tunica media, and the adventitia layer. Now, the intima layer is the inside layer, which is quite fragile. And what happens with this cholesterol that is inflamed, we call it the B cholesterol, cholesterol that is smaller than normal cholesterol, is that it gets underneath the intima layer and stays there. And what happens is your immune system recognizes it as being something that's foreign, a foreign body. And what happens is your Pac-Man of your body, which is called the macrophage, goes underneath your intima as well, follows the cholesterol and eats it up to clean it up and to make sure it doesn't damage any other parts of your body. Now, after that process happens, you get foam cells, which are macrophages that protect the environment around itself so that the LDL doesn't do any more damage, but that foam cell does not get cleaned up if damage accumulates. So let's say you have a lot of this cholesterol LDLB, which is damaging, then you get more and more plaques, more and more foam cells. And those are occluding your arteries. Your arteries, let's say, this is your artery, and with a foam cell that goes underneath in here, and then eventually after years of time, depends on how much inflammation you have, how many LDL molecules are getting inflamed, you could get a plaque forming over here, which just eventually will occlude this artery. And then there is no blood flow, and what happens is that people get coronary heart disease and they get a heart attack or some other systemic issue. Now, I told you that cholesterol is made in the body, and there's a different type of cholesterol that is actually attacking your blood vessels. Because the cholesterol that is normally made, the LDL, low density lipoprotein, is actually more like a cloud. And what happens when this cholesterol, this cloud molecule, gets inflamed is that it becomes smaller, and that's a small molecule I just talked about, which damages your body. So it's dependent on inflammation. Let's say you have chronic inflammation. Most cholesterol you produce from your liver will get immediately inflamed. And because of that inflammation, it cannot be reuptaken into the liver again. So you just have molecules, like normally you have your liver over here, and it says, oh, I need more cholesterol. It produces the cholesterol, goes into your body, and it places it somewhere. For example, for men, it goes to the testes, so you can create testosterone, so you can lift more weights in the gym, and you can be a stronger person. Now let's say you have chronic inflammation. Your liver produces the cholesterol. Somewhere along the line it gets damaged, and what happens is when it comes back, it gets in between the intima layer of some artery, and then the atherosclerotic process begins. Now this is not as big of a problem if you're young, because if you're young you have enough energy, enough recovery to get this back on track again. But what happens after a process of years of chronic inflammation, most of the cholesterol, most of the LDL you have is getting damaged. Because of this damage, your blood vessels will get more and more inflamed and more infiltrated with your immune cells, your Pac-Mans, your macrophages. And these macrophages will create foam cells. And eventually your artery will look nothing like itself. I'll show you a picture of what a normal artery looks like and what an atherosclerotic artery looks like. It's very, very different, and the difference is day and night. We've been told that you have to eat plant oils to reduce cholesterol, which makes sense mechanistically. You want that cholesterol that is inflamed, you want it gone. You don't want it to cause any more harm. That's why your immune system takes it away. It wouldn't be without reason. So reducing cholesterol seems like a fair rationale, and we also do that with statin drugs. I will talk about statins in another video. Now, with the Minnesota Coronary Experiment, what we see is a double-blinded controlled trial, a diet trial, with the intervention of one group eating only animal fats, saturated fats, and one group eating plant oils, namely corn syrup or corn oils. The outcomes they were measuring were death from all causes, association between changes in cholesterol and death, and also coronary atherosclerosis and myocardial infarctions. Now, what the results were very, very surprising, because you would expect, with the prior knowledge we have, that what you would see is that people who ate saturated fats, they would die of coronary heart disease at an alarming rate, because that's what we've been told. And why wouldn't we believe what we've been told, of course? What we see in this study is actually that the intervention group did have lower cholesterol. Yes, they had 14% less serum cholesterol floating around in their system, which on paper seems good, you know? Hey, we did it. We saved humanity. We stopped heart disease. But if we look a little bit further and dig a little bit deeper, what we see is that there's no mortality benefit for eating plant oils. Well, you know, okay, that's not too horrible. If it doesn't help, then it probably doesn't hurt. In the next sentence in this paper, they say that there was a 22% increased risk of death with the intervention group. Meaning, if you ate the plant oils for the 5 years the experiment was going on, you would have a 22% higher chance of dying in the 40-year follow-up, which is exactly opposite to what we have been taught in medical school. This is interesting, because you would expect the other thing. You would expect something else. You would expect that this was not the case. They also did not find any evidence for the benefit of eating plant oils and atherosclerotic plaques. So what this study shows is that the story of the man who eats all the plant oils in the world so he doesn't get a heart attack might actually be doing the wrong type of thing. Yes, it does lower cholesterol, and yes, cholesterol could be bad if it gets inflamed, But it doesn't mean that lowering cholesterol is the end-all be-all holy grail of treating heart disease. What this study shows is that eating saturated fats might actually protect against heart disease, and eating plant oils could maybe damage your body, because lowering cholesterol might not be the best of ideas when cholesterol is needed to repair certain cells in your body. That's like looking at, a fireman who's at the building that's in flames, and then thinking, oh, this building is burning and I see a red truck, and every time I see a burning building there's a red truck, so because of the red truck there's a fire. Correlation is not causation. Just because cholesterol is at the place of atherosclerotic plaques does not mean that it's the cause of them. And it does not mean that lowering that serum concentration of LDL will be beneficiary for people who are suffering from heart disease. Now, most medical people are actually slowly catching up to this. Some of them still have some catching up to do, but what we see here is very, very clear evidence that what we know about diet and what we've been taught about diet might actually be biased by some industries that do not really care about scientific integrity. So when next time you're in a supermarket, think about what you buy. If you buy a light product, realize that they took out something that is natural and replace it with something that is cheaper and most likely unnatural. Like getting skimmed milk, for me, does not make any sense. You're paying pretty much the same amount, sometimes even more, for less milk. The fats in a milk are actually nourishing. They nourish you. When you see a baby and it's suckling on its mother, you don't give it a low-fat alternative because you realize that, oh yeah, mother milk might actually be the best food for the baby. So why do we tamper with our own food supply by making it less like what nature has given us? We have evolved with nature. We have evolved with foods that are made for our gut system. We have not evolved with plant oils on a massive scale. No ancestors of ours have been eating plant oils as much as we do. You would have to eat tons and tons and tons of sunflower seeds or corn to get the same results as we see here, but these people, they just eat margarine with that product inside of it. So reevaluate what you eat. Try to think about what is natural and how would it affect me in the long term. And realize that not everything that a doctor says might be true. You have to really think for yourself and really dig into the research. And I know it's difficult to do because you trust doctors inherently. They are very trustful people. And I don't think that they're bad people for not knowing some of the research out there. It just means that they might just be a little bit lazy to figure out what is exactly the biomechanics behind cholesterol. You just follow the guidelines, and then nothing can hurt you, because if you do something that is risky and outside of the guidelines, you might get sued. But if you make a mistake that is inside of the guidelines, you're fine. You're not sticking out your neck and you're not getting hit by anyone. You're fine. You can make as much as mistakes as you want because it's the guidelines. So think about what you put in your body so that you do not become someone who has to follow guidelines which are, clearly not working as well as they should or as they could. Thank you for watching. I wish you all a great week. Take good care of yourself, stay healthy, and I'll see you next week.